In 2004, 16-year-old Misty Tasker was a typical American teenager living in Live Oak, Florida, which is a small rural town right in the middle of the state. One Saturday evening in January, she and her mother attended a church service. Afterwards, they hopped in her mother's truck and they got on the country highway and began making their way home. Their house was just 20 minutes down this highway. There were no street lights. It was actually a dirt road and it was just thick forest on both sides of the road. Misty, who's in the passenger seat, just happens to look over at her mother. She notices out her mother's window it looks like there's a little girl sitting on the side of the road. She says to her mom, I think I just saw a little girl. Misty's mother, she stops the car, she does a 3-point turn, and she begins driving back up the road where they came from towards this girl. And they both began scanning the right side of the road because that's where she's going to be now. They both see this girl a little ways up on the right-hand side. Her back was to the road. She had her knees tucked up to her chest and she was rocking back and forth. And so Misty's mother began slowly rolling up to her and she told her daughter that instead of just stopping right away, let's just drive past her and get a look at her, and then we'll turn around and see if she needs any help. They realized she was not a little girl. She was a young teenager. The girl did not acknowledge them. They drive past her about 50 meters. Misty's mother does a 3-point turn, and when they're looking back down the road where the girl should now be on their left-hand side, they're oriented back towards their house now, she wasn't there anymore. But there were no street lights. It was now almost completely pitch dark outside, and so all they had was the headlights. And so Misty and her mother just slow rolled back down the road, but after traveling for several minutes and seeing no sign of this girl, they decided that, well, she must have just gone back to wherever it was she came from. And they were coming up to this 4-way intersection with stop signs all around. And as they were getting close, Misty's mother gasped because on the other side of the intersection, on the right-hand side, was this girl. And both women are just stunned at what they're looking at. It wasn't possible for her to get all the way up here. But Misty's mom let up off the brake and began slow rolling past this intersection. And now at this point, Misty is just absolutely terrified. And so she takes her seatbelt off and she goes down into the footwell right in front of her seat. But her mother just continues on until she stops right next to this girl who's still just sitting on the side of the road with her back to the road. So Misty's mother turns to her daughter and says, please roll down your window. And Misty refuses. Still in the fetal position, she's crying and she's still begging her mother to please just go home. And so Misty's mother, frustrated, reaches across the passenger seat and grabs the knob to roll down the window manually. And her mom yells out to this girl. And Misty remembers looking at her mom, who suddenly recoils in horror and screams, and then they take off like crazy, flying down the road. Misty jumps out of the footwell and she's looking at her mom and she's like, what's happening? And finally her mother just said she didn't have a face. She didn't have a face. It was hollow. There was nothing on her face when she looked at me. And they speed home. They're home just a couple of minutes later and they run inside. Misty's mom calls 911. She just told the police that they had seen a girl they think needs help. And so the police, they went out and they searched that entire stretch of highway. There was never any trace of that girl.